U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi spoke about how the U.S. will support Taiwan. 26 Republican senators backed her. After she left Taiwan, China began to threaten Taiwan by executing military exercises near the island. Many of the Chinese Communist Party's officials were absent in China during Pelosi's visit. They are suspected to be at the Behaide conference, one of the biggest but most secretive conferences in China. Taiwan is concerned about an invasion from China. The chairman of one of Taiwan's biggest businesses, Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing company, spoke about how Taiwan's economy would be affected. Following Pelosi's visit, the Britain Foreign Affairs Committee is planning to visit Taiwan in November or early December. Both candidates for Britain's next prime minister are advocating strong policies against China. Finally, China's steel business is being negatively impacted by the real estate crisis and lack of auto demand. Let's get into it. Welcome to Sound of Hope News. My name is Daniela Wolensack, and today is August 3rd. During a historic trip to Taiwan, U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the United States would not abandon the democratically governed island. On August 2nd, the Washington Post published an article signed by Nancy Pelosi, just as she arrived in Taiwan. The article was entitled, "Why I Lead a Congressional Delegation to Taiwan." She stated in the article, the United States stands with Taiwan as she defends her freedom. She also pointed out that the congressional delegation's visit to Taiwan abides by the long-held One China policy, which is guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the U.S.-China Joint Communique, and the Six Assurances. The U.S. continues to oppose any unilateral changes to the status quo. The delegation's discussions with Taiwan will reaffirm U.S. support for Taiwan and develop common interests, including promoting a free and open Indo-Pacific region. On the same day, Pelosi also tweeted, "Taiwan is a strong and dynamic democracy and an important partner of ours in the Indo-Pacific region." Another important development was that 26 Republican senators in the U.S. Congress issued a joint statement in support of Pelosi's trip to Taiwan. It seems that a bipartisan consensus of supporting Taiwan is taking shape in the U.S. Congress. Pelosi left Taiwan on Wednesday en route to South Korea's capital, Seoul. She is the first sitting U.S. House Speaker in 25 years to visit Taiwan. Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen called the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi Taiwan's most devoted friend on Wednesday for her concrete actions to support Taiwan at this critical moment. She said the island will stay strong in the face of military threats from Beijing. Ms. Pelosi said, "Today, the world faces a choice between democracy and autocracy. America's determination to preserve democracy here in Taiwan and around the world remains ironclad." As Ms. Pelosi toured the capital city, Taipei, at times an almost carnival atmosphere followed her. Many cheered and held up supportive banners, while supporters greeted her at her hotel. On the other hand, a gathering of pro-China demonstrators held up signs accusing her of interfering in China's internal affairs. In a pair of high-profile meetings, Ms. Pelosi met with Taiwanese lawmakers, then with human rights leaders, and toured a human rights museum. She also brought economic assurances, calling a trade deal between Taiwan and the U.S. hopefully imminent, and held a cordial meeting with the chairman of the Taiwan chip giant, TSMC, Mark Liu. Pelosi's Taiwan visit has angered Beijing. Now that she has left, there is real potential for a military showdown. According to New York Times, China is planning to ramp up large-scale military drills around the self-governed island, starting on Thursday. This would mark a direct challenge to what Taiwan defines as its coastline. Coordinates for the drills indicated that they could be as close as 10 miles from Taiwan's coast. This is well within Taiwan's territorial waters and closer than previous tests during a standoff 26 years ago. China's military warned all boats and airplanes to avoid the identified areas for 3 days. The new live-fire drills will occur in areas closer to the island than those in 1995 and 1996. For Taiwan and the United States military, A key question will be whether they obey the orders or test China's resolve by sending boats and planes into those zones. Entering August every year, the Chinese Communist Party's high-level officials disappear from the public arena and go to the secret Behaide meeting. The Behaide meeting is never publicly announced, but many suspect it is taking place now. This year, it seems to coincide with Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. According to the Epoch Times, there have been no public activities from the 7 standing committee members of the Communist Party of China since the August 1st reception held by the Ministry of National Defense on July 31st. Current affairs commentator Li Linyi said that Pelosi's visit to Taiwan and the CCP's toughness is linked to the Behaide meeting. If the Chinese president is soft, he may be attacked by the party and have to make concessions in personal arrangements. Although the Chinese president has the final say, he dodges taking on their positions. The Behaide meeting is an opportunity for retired veterans to get involved. The elders of the CCP are relatively weak now, but their influence is still there. Deutsche Welle quoted the commentator Deng Yuwen as saying that Pelosi's visit to Taiwan has put the Chinese president in a dilemma. If military action is insufficient, he will not be able to explain it to the Chinese people. If the force is too fierce, he will not worry about a military conflict with the US. It is difficult to save his position without escalating the conflict with the US military. Whether the Chinese president can do it, we will see soon. As Pelosi leads a delegation to Asia, the Taiwan Strait is concerned about security. How would Taiwan's economy be affected if the Chinese Communist Party attacks? The Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company Limited Chairman D.Y. Liu was interviewed by CNN on the topic. Can China afford to attack Taiwan? He replied, "There are no winners on the battlefield. Everyone is a loser. Taiwanese have established a democratic system in Taiwan and want to live their own lives. Although the semiconductor industry is very important to Taiwan's overall economy, if a war does occur, the semiconductor industry may not be the most worrying thing. The real worry is that the war will destroy the stable world economy and trade, and the geopolitics will change drastically. If the Chinese Communist Party were to invade Taiwan, would it control the manufacturing of chips by force? In this regard, Liu Deyin said that no country can use force to control SMC. If invaded, TSMC would not be able to operate at all. TSMC is a complex and huge organization, from raw materials, chemical products, equipment parts, engineering software, and testing. It needs to communicate and cooperate with the world, such as Europe, Japan, and the United States, at any time. Only the efforts of all people in the world can make this company operate. Finally, he encouraged people not to be intimidated by the Chinese Communist Party's words, because Taiwan's economy is based on global cooperation, trust, and openness. British media has revealed that the Foreign Affairs Committee of the House of Commons of the British Parliament is planning to visit Taiwan in November or early December this year. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi just visited Taiwan and attracted global attention. According to The Guardian, the purpose of Britain's visit is to express support for Taiwan. Sino-British relations have deteriorated in recent years. One main cause was the Chinese Communist Party's push for national security laws in Hong Kong. China policy is the top focus of debate in the ongoing race for the leadership of the British Conservative Party to become the next Prime Minister. Candidates are competing for a hardline stance against the Chinese Communist Party. The delegation is expected to be led by Tugendhat, chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the House of Commons. On the other hand, sources in British politics say that if Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, who is running for the leadership of the Conservative Party, wins in early September and becomes the new Prime Minister, Tugendhat could potentially also be given a cabinet post. Different sources say that the visit to Taiwan will continue regardless of who becomes chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. China's steel industry is entering unstable times as China's real estate crisis worsens and auto manufacturing demands wane. Profits of Chinese steel companies fell sharply in the first half of this year. Steel enterprises are expected to go bankrupt if China's economy continues to decline. According to Bloomberg, the chairman of Behaide Group, Li Ganpo, said at a company meeting in June that nearly a third of China's steel mills could go bankrupt within 5 years. He said with great pessimism that the entire industry is losing money, and there is no turning point in sight. The real estate sector accounted for at least a third of China's steel demands. The real estate crisis intensified this year and caused great difficulties for developers and banks. The price of iron ores has also been severely impacted. In July, iron ore miners in Australia and Brazil saw their Steel Purchasing Managers Index (PMI) fall to its lowest level since 2008. Goldman Sachs expects that the demand will fall 5% this year. Auto manufacturing is another steel-consuming industry, which will be impacted. According to a July 11th report by the China Automobile Manufacturers Association, China's total auto production fell by 3.7% year-on-year in the first half of this year. Car sales were nearly 12 million, down 6.6% year-on-year. Thank you so much for watching Sound of Hope News. If you like what you saw, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you tomorrow.